1045 The Team and 1045theteam.com. Big weekend of horse racing coming up. We have the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. We have the Toyota Bluegrass at Keeneland. And who better to ask than our own NYRA's Andy Serling. Andy, we have a big weekend coming up. Of course, the last big one here at Aqueduct, and we come to the Wood Memorial. A lot of good horses running in this race. Todd Pletcher has Battalion Runner. Of course, Chad Brown has Cloud Computing, and then Irish War Cry for Grand Motion. How do you see this race playing out?
Well, I think it's an interesting race, Brian. Thanks for having me on. This and the Bluegrass are really the most definitive preps at this point. Obviously, you want to see what Classic Empire can do in Arkansas next week, but you've got at least two, if not three, major Derby-type horses with Italian Runner for Todd and Cloud Computing for Chad Brown, as you said, and Irish War Cry looking to redeem himself. Irish War Cry has to go. Obviously, rating didn't work for him last time, so you know they're going to be aggressive. The Italian Runner is also going to go. He has speed, he has an inside position, and you know that John Velasquez is going to be aggressive with him. I'll be surprised if Motown, another horse who's looking to redeem himself off a terrible performance in his 3-year-old race down in Louisiana, I think he'll be forwardly placed. True Timber has to be forwardly placed. So even a horse like Stretch's Stone is going to be forwardly placed. So I'm not saying we're going to see some sort of blistering pace, but I think we'll see an honest pace. There are too many contenders that have speed, and I don't think any one of them wants to let another horse get an advantage. So we'll see an honestly run race, I think. You know, Todd Pletcher has such a tremendous record in these 3-year-old prep races that even though I'm not thrilled with Italian Runner, I didn't think his last race was that impressive. I think he's a very dangerous horse in here because Todd just knows how to win with these races with horses that may ultimately not be that good. I do think that Cloud Computing is the best horse in the race. I'm not saying he's going to win this race and win the Kentucky Derby. I think by Travers time of this bunch that we've seen, he's the best 3-year-old we've seen. I loved his race. I mean, to run as well as he did in the Gotham, just 3 weeks after his debut at 6 furlongs to stretch out, he was chasing what was a very, very hot pace involving the favorite Ella Reed, who completely wilted. And Cloud Computing was fighting it out with J-Boy's Echo, who's a big factor in the Bluegrass and a major contender for the Derby, even though he was the one doing all the dirty work while J-Boy's Echo was sitting back. So for a second career start, that was about as impressive a race as you could expect from a horse. I think he's going to win this race. I believe he's better than Battalion Runner, but, you know, I'm sort of afraid of the Pletcher factor because Todd is really dangerous in these races.
Yeah, I agree, Andy. Todd's always been really good on these prep races. When you look at the prep races the last few years, a lot of what we've seen are big horses coming out of California. What do you say now to these prep races in New York? Do you think we can come and see some sort of Kentucky Derby winner out of any of these New York prep races?
Oh, sure. I'm an old man, so, you know, I was around for a lot of horses that ran in the Wood Memorial that were, you know, some of the best 3-year-olds that ran. And this notion that California dominates. It was a very poor decision by the Grade Stakes Committee to lower the grades of the Wood Memorial and Bluegrass. And I'll be honest, I think it's worse than the Bluegrass, so I don't seem like a complete homer because, you know, they got rid of synthetics a few years ago. At least give them a few years to build their race back. And now you've got the Wood and the Bluegrass is really strong preps, and the Florida Derby, Arkansas Derby, and Anita Derby are inferior races in a lot of ways, and they're the great ones. It's random. I mean, California, over time, California's had a tremendous run. Bob Baffert obviously playing a big role in that, but the reality is that it's a numbers game. California is an isolated situation, whereas the East Coast, as we put it, is basically everybody else in a funny way, you know? So it's a numbers game, and over time, the Wood and the Bluegrass and these races, they're going to have Derby horses. They're going to have Derby winners or, you know, Travers winners or Triple Crown type winners. It's a random thing. I mean, think about Escandarea, who won the Wood Memorial a number of years ago. There's a very high likelihood if he had not broken down after the Wood that he would have won the Triple Crown. I know it's a big if, and racing's full of ifs, but if he had won the Triple Crown, the Wood Memorial would be a grade 1. It's a lot of randomness. These are all major preps and final stopping spots before the Derby, and to suggest that one of them is better than the other one is to be fooled by randomness.
So Andy Serling from NYRA joining us here, 1045theteam.com. Let's go to the Bluegrass. That'll be run as race 10 on the card at Keeneland. Now, McCracken's a 7-5 favorite for Ian Wilkes and Brian Hernandez. J-Boy's Echo is coming off the win in the Gotham. Todd Pletcher has Tapwrit, and of course, Chad Brown with Practical Joke. How do you see this race playing out? And is this McCracken's race, or can I find value elsewhere?
Well, this is a very big race. I mean, you've arguably got two horses in McCracken and Taprit, and then J-Boy's Echo, who has the fastest buyer figure now that Mastery's on the shelf of any of the Triple Crown preps so far. So you've got a matchup among those three of three top contenders for the Kentucky Derby. The McCracken bandwagon, to me, is a little mystifying. People love undefeated horses. I would love to see him win the Derby for Ian Wilkes, who's genuinely one of the top trainers in the game and one of the real good guys in racing. But on the racetrack, he hasn't done enough to have this reputation and be this kind of favorite of the Derby that he is. The notion that because he won at Churchill Downs in November, he somehow has an advantage in the Derby is a foolish one and only comes up the one out of every 12 years that it's relevant. Is he the horse to beat? I guess, but Tapper, who finished second to him last time, has improved since that race, and he's coming into it in a good way. Dale Romans is home in Kentucky where he can win. Practical Joke, the question with Practical Joke is whether or not he's going to get more effective with distance, but he didn't run that badly, making a premature move in his return, and he is a dual Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old. So this is a super strong group, and to be honest with you, I think that tactically there isn't a lot of pace, and maybe that affects everybody in a negative way. But I think that this is a super group, and it's going to take a big effort to win this race. But you also have to step back and say, are the participants looking to win the Bluegrass? Or are they looking to get to the Kentucky Derby the proverbial right way? And that's another question. And, who has that in mind? And there might be a horse that runs second and third here that becomes the horse you want for the Derby. So I think the Bluegrass and the Wood Memorial are very important races, an important race for people to pay attention to, and not just jump onto the winner's bandwagon as much as look what happened in the races, because there's a lot of good horses in the two of these races.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was going to go with you next, Andy, is a lot of people, especially like when I first started, was, okay, well, this horse won last time out, so he's easily better than these, when a lot of what you watch when you guys do Trips and Traps and a lot of these other shows, to notice that horses might not just get a good trip, they could have a lot of trouble, even going back to the trouble, like Arrowgate's performance, how terrible a trip he got, but just being as good as he is. How much do you put into studying the videos and watching these races as much as you guys do before betting on the Kentucky Derby?
Well, a lot. I mean, I think you have to watch how races are run, whether they're cheap claiming races or, big races like the Derby or Triple Crown or Breeders' Cup races. And you take, for instance, J-Boy's Echo. People that understand trip handicapping knew that he was the horse that you wanted out of the Withers, and a lot of us bet him in his subsequent start into Gotham at 6-1. And he got a very good setup and won. But none of us that understand trip handicapping were surprised that he improved in his subsequent start, especially under more ideal circumstances. And as I talked about cloud computing, so how races are run is important. I think the worst thing that people can do at the racetrack and in any circumstance, and even in life, is to be overly result-oriented. I think we live in a result-oriented world. And yes, in a 7-game basketball series, it's unlikely that the better team will lose. But as you know, in the World Series, a 7-game series, the randomness of baseball, and the better team loses all the time. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of randomness, and horse racing has more randomness than anything because of trips and tracks and different pace setups and such. So just because the Derby happens to have been won by some favorites and been very logical in the last few years doesn't mean anything this year. It doesn't mean that it's all going to be logical, and especially a year like this that right now is very much in flux. Pay attention. I mean, the horse I think you want out of the Florida Derby, because now his price went way up, is Guinevere, finished third. I like him more than I did off his win in the Fountain of Youth. Doesn't make me right, but I think you'll get more value with also Rams, and if they had legitimate excuses, that makes them much better bets than the obvious types that win.
Yeah, Andy, I agree with you. I was on the Guinevere bandwagon before the race. I'm still on it afterwards. I think there was a big track bias against his running style going to that Florida Derby, but this weekend, great weekend of betting, a lot of great cards between Keeneland, New York, and out in Santa Anita as well. What does NYRA Bets have for the better, for me, this Saturday?
Well, the best thing we have going is that we're offering a pick 4 on races 6 through 9. We added an extra pick 4 that's only available in New York State or through NYRA Bets. And if you don't live in New York State, the only way that you can bet this pick 4 is through NYRA Bets. You can't bet anywhere else. And there's also a 15% winner's bonus if you play the NYRA Bets and you win. And that 6 through 9 pick 4 are the races leading up to the Wood. 3 of them are stake races. One of them is a terrific allowance race, a very competitive race. We're covering all 4 races on Fox Sports 2 on our inaugural Aqueduct Live show this year. and get an NYRA bet. And, not only can you sign up for NYRA bets and make that bet, you can bet all the races anywhere. You can sign up in 32 states around the country. And also, if people haven't noticed that, we've added a new app called NYRA Now, which is available for free in the App Store. And you can use your NYRA Bets login to get onto that, as well as a free login on NYRA.com. App. It offers everything in HD, a ton of video, live video, race replays, stakes replays, anything you could possibly want.
Andy, I just downloaded it now, NYRA Now. I'm ready to go for tomorrow. Thank you so much for the time, and best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks, Brian. It's been a pleasure.